Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Samurai Goddess. The goddess next door takes on kung fu killers in this action-packed martial arts Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Samurai Goddess in paperback and e-readers today. Anyone who has read my blog or watched many of my comic book videos knows that I am not a fan of the DC Cinematic Universe, or the Snyderverse as many comic fans call it. And many more know that I have a complete disdain for anything made by DC Comics or Warner Brothers DC properties after 2011. However, one of my viewers wanted to get my opinion of this Wonder Woman film, and after they sent me a donation to pay for the movie ticket, I decided to go check out this Wonder Woman film at the Magic Johnson. And after watching this Wonder Woman film, I can honestly say that the film isn't terrible in the way that Man of Steel or Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice was, and it was the best film out of all of the DC cinematic films made under the Snyderverse. However, while it is a pretty decent film, it never really rises to the point where it can be considered a piece of classic cinema like 1978's Superman the movie or Tim Burton's 1989 Batman. While Patty Jenkins' vision is one of the strongest cinematic adaptations of the Wonder Woman character, and this is the best DC cinematic superhero film to date, the film never actualizes its potential to be the great film it should have been. Because when I look at this film, it had all the promise to be on the level of 78's Superman the movie or 89's Batman, but it is impeded by two things. And the first thing that this film is impeded by is the connection to the Snyderverse. And the big problem with this film is that because it's connected to this Snyderverse, it's like Patty Jenkins has an anchor tied to her leg that prevents her from moving as far as she could. When I look at her visuals, they're really strong visuals. She really tells a great story in pictures. She does a great job with imagery, and she does a great job at directing actors and action. When I look at her visuals, they are some of the strongest visuals I have seen in a movie. Unfortunately, those visuals are impeded by this connection to Zack Snyder's deep version of the DC Universe and the dark, dreary, depressing story model he pretty much established in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. I believe if this film were separated from those two films, this film, again, could have been a classic on the level of Tim Burton's Batman and Richard Donner's Superman. I believe Patty Jenkins could have pretty much made a film on the level of Richard Donner if she was not tied to by the ankle to the chain of this Zack Snyder and his dreadful DC cinematic universe, because her visuals, again, were very strong. Her direction of action was strong. Her direction of actors was strong. And the only thing that was preventing her from actualizing her potential was being connected to all of that previous work. Now, I know Warner Brothers wanted to make a DC cinematic not cinematic universe, but it's the execution of the concept that has prevented them from being able to actualize their potential. And what prevents them from being able to actualize their potential is pretty much they hamper their directors, and Patty Jenkins was pretty much hampered because of this vision of Zack Snyder and this story model. She never got the chance to pretty much establish this character as her own character and let her be her own character all the way in a film all by herself. Now, the other thing that impedes this Wonder Woman movie is the screenplay for Wonder Woman. And the screenplay for Wonder Woman pretty much does a good job in the first 20 minutes or so of establishing the Diana character, and it does a good job of showing Paradise Island. And those visuals on Paradise Island are absolutely perfect. They're literally like they're taken out of a Wonder Woman comic book. And I look at those visuals from Paradise Island, there are a lot of nice things in there. And I love seeing things like the little homage to the the Silver Age Wonder Girl chest emblem that was pretty much cut into one of the characters' tops. I like seeing stuff like that, and the little nuanced things that they did on Paradise Island that pretty much made it just like the comic book. Now, those scenes in Paradise Island, they were pretty much rock solid. Unfortunately, one of the big problems with Wonder Woman has to do with the story. And the problems that relate to Wonder Woman as relate to story relate to the core foundations of things that have been impeding Wonder Woman for over 75 years. And one of the things that has impeded Wonder Woman over 75 years is her lack of voice, as I've pointed out in previous videos, and the inability of writers to pretty much write her a character transformation arc. And the big problem with this Wonder Woman movie that really prevents it from actualizing its potential is the complete lack of a character transformation arc. Now, we get a great story of who is Diana and what she wants, but we never really get a reason to care. And the reason why we don't get a reason to care is because the writers really don't give this character a voice. They really don't give her some depth. They really don't give her some substance. It's just we're told Diana is special. We're told that she has gifts. And we're not seeing her learn on the journey as she gets these gifts. She just kind of gets the gifts, and Steve Trevor's plane crashes. She saves Steve Trevor, and then she's told about things again, but she never really shows us how she learned anything or grew from the experience. As after watching the entire Wonder Woman movie, I can't see how she has been changed or transformed by her experiences in that war, and I didn't see her really grow in a way that pretty much showed me a character transformation arc. And this is a really big problem as it relates to superheroines. They really don't make an effort to put these type of characters through any sort of character transformation arc where they go through any sort of pain or any sort of loss. It's always other characters going through pain and loss, like they did in this movie, or other characters explaining things to them, but the person never experiences anything for themselves in the way someone like Luke Skywalker, or Steve Rogers, or Tony Stark did in their movies. Now, in their movies, they go through the character transformation arc, and because they're going through the character transformation arc, we can connect with them, we can identify with them, we can relate to them. When I was watching this Wonder Woman movie, it's like she's told about things, she decides she wants to go do something, and then she just shows up, and then stuff just happens. There's no real organic transition to it, and we never get to see how she learns how to work towards solving problems. It's always somebody else doing something for her, but she never learns how to do anything for herself. But we're told she's a strong woman because she's physically strong, and that's pretty much what makes this Wonder Woman film and the character of Wonder Woman somewhat shallow as a character, because we never see her learn how to get the strength of character, because it's the strength of character that makes a character strong, and it's that strength of character that really resonates with the audience, and we don't see that with this Wonder Woman character. We never really see her develop a strength of character. Again, it's just like a bunch of sequences happen, people show up, fights happen, stuff happens. We see her lifting tanks, we see her blocking things with bracelets, we see her using a magic lasso, but because there is no substance to this material that makes us connect with it and care about her, there's nothing really there. It's just stuff happens, it's really shallow, but there's no depth to it. And this is also a big problem with superheroines, is that they have no substance to them, and they have no substance to their character transformation arc. We never really get to see them grow as characters. We see them as women on screen, but we never get to see them grow as people and actualize their potential as people. And I look at this Wonder Woman movie, yes, she does a lot of things that are superhero-y, but because there is no substance to her story, we never really connect with it in the same way we did with Tony Stark in 2008's Iron Man, or Steve Rogers in Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, in those two films, we saw a complete character transformation arc. And when I look at this Wonder Woman movie, they took a lot of scenes from that Captain America the First Avenger on the surface, but they didn't look at the substance behind those scenes, because all those scenes were meant to have some substance to show us how Steve Rogers was affected in ways that affected how he went about his approach to fighting in the war. Diana wants to fight in the war in the same way that Steve Rogers does, but Steve Rogers has a lot more substantive reasons for going to war. All Diana wants to do is stop Ares to stop a war, but Steve Rogers wants to do things on a more substantive level. He learns what it means to be a hero, and we really didn't get that from this Wonder Woman movie. That's one of the things that was the biggest problem with the screenplay, and it's a big problem with superheroines in general, is that writers are just too afraid to put female characters through the same transformation arcs as the guys. Now, if they were willing to do that, that would pretty much show equality, and it would also show real strength of character, because any good writer is going to put a heroine through the same character transformation arc because they want this character to resonate with the reader, they want the character to connect with the reader, and they want the reader to care about the character and what they want and the obstacles they face in the quest to get what they want. It's that substance that pretty much makes that story go from just being a flat story to becoming the stuff of a classic or the stuff of a legend. And again, this is what pretty much is one of the core things that prevents this Wonder Woman movie from becoming a classic on the level of Tim Burton's Batman or Richard Donner's Superman. It's that total lack of substance, that total lack of a character transformation arc, and a rich, complex story. There really just wasn't enough there. It's like events happen, people show up, special effects are there, but there's no heart to it. There's no soul to it. There's no energy to it. It's just stuff happening, and that leads to a really shallow experience, and it really leads to a really flat climax. And then the whole Wonder Woman movie, the climax is the worst part of it all, because in that third act, the entire film just falls apart. That's when the story just collapses, because the Ares character, again, has no substance as a bad guy. And this is another big problem with superheroines, is that most writers are too afraid to put them up against a real bad guy. When it comes down to this Wonder Woman movie, they say Ares is the bad guy, and they tell us he's the bad guy, but they don't give us a reason to see why this guy is really evil or why he's such a threat to anyone. We really don't get him built up as any sort of credible threat, and that pretty much sucks a lot of energy out of this film, is that he's not really presented as a credible threat in the way the Red Skull was or Obadiah Stane was. Those guys were pretty much, they were bad. We understood their motivations. But with this Ares, we're just told he's a bad guy. And he's pretty much presented on a level on the same as the devil, but we never see him doing anything really devilish. We're told about things, and that's another big problem with this Wonder Woman movie, is that we're told about everything, but we're not shown. When I watch a Marvel Studios movie, we get shown a lot, and those characters are shown doing things, but in this film, we get told a lot, and that pretty much sucks the energy out of the film, because we don't see these characters on screen doing and being things. And when it comes down to this Ares, he just didn't feel like a threat. He didn't feel dangerous. We're told that about these guys are evil. They're set up to be strawmen, which is something I saw with Jessica Jones and many other heroines. They always set up strawman villains instead of setting up real villains and establishing a relationship between the hero and the villain. And that's another thing that really lacks when it comes down to superheroines that I saw in this Wonder Woman movie, is that it lacked that relationship. Because if you had that relationship, you would have that chemistry and that tension that would have pretty much brought the viewer in and made them feel something. And they would have pretty much had a reason to care, because they would have seen these two, the hero and the villain, pretty much having reasons not to like each other, and seeing how they both are in each other's way. But we would be able to have a reason to root for the hero, and that was something that pretty much lacked in this Wonder Woman movie. We're told Ares is bad, but we're not given a reason to see why he is bad, and why we should care about Diana needing to stop him. All we're told is that she's the God Killer, and that, again, is just not enough to give you that great story or that classic experience that a cinematic classic has. It just didn't have enough story-wise. The story just was not strong enough. Now, I know a lot of people like this Wonder Woman movie. I know that a lot of people give it great reviews, but I really didn't see enough there for me to say that this is a great movie. Yes, it is one of the best films of the Snyderverse. However, it's not a great film on the level of Tim Burton's Batman or Richard Donner's Superman. It's just an average film, and the sad part about this DC cinematic universe is how mediocre it is. And the sad part is, when I look at this Wonder Woman movie, I see how much potential could have been there if someone like Patty Jenkins had had no connections to Zack Snyder or his universe, because I believe that all the elements were there to make a great film, but this film had all of its potential sucked out due to a flat and weak screenplay and connections to previous films, which pretty much were an anchor that prevented the film from rising to that next level. If you like what you see on this channel and you want to see more videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking to the link in the description box. A dollar donation goes a long way. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct Universe titles, such as the ISIS series or the E-Steam series, or The Temptation of John Haynes, you may do so by clicking the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.